Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and hopefully you've had a great Christmas and New Year, because hopefully by the time you see this it'll be 2025. And I just thought I'd give you a little bit of a roundup of what happened in the last season, plus I'm going to come up with something very controversial. So the roundup, at the end of the year it was a little bit difficult. I couldn't race as much as I wanted to, had a lot going on with work, and it just wasn't working for me with times. And then Automobilista came out onto LFM, so which made it all a little bit more complicated. But with the TCRs, we stuck with it till the end. Probably could have been a bit higher up than I was in the end. We were 13th in the championship. But the crusty old racers, we actually won Division 1 again for the second season running. So well done to all the crusty old racers who put in a lot of hard work and effort over the last 12 weeks. Moving on to the GT4s with ACC, I think I was about 15th, somewhere around there. Certainly top 20, but didn't do the last three races, just didn't have time. That was the long and short of it, too much going on. Then Automobilista 2. Now, I started into those a little bit late, particularly with Group A, because they were doing it every other day and only on weekdays. I think I was till top 200 or top 300 in Group A, and with Ginettas, which, to be honest, the Ginettas had something stupid like 4,500 entries. So actually I'm quite pleased with that, and I really hope we're going to get more of that for next season. I know we're getting TCRs next season. I'm going to concentrate a bit harder and see if we can get a bit further on that. Now to the controversial bit. What is a sim? Now, someone commented on one of my videos the other day about why I wasn't using an H-pattern gear shift with the Group A cars, because after all, it's a sim. That's what the name says. Yeah, but is it? Is it really a simulator? And I'll tell you why, or why I come to this conclusion. And you may or may not agree with me on this. Up to you. Everyone's got an opinion. Unless you are sitting at home with $250,000 worth of kit like the Formula One teams are, you haven't got a sim. You've got a platform to be able to have some fun and to be able to race to a reasonably realistic level, but it's not totally realistic. Therefore, in my view, it's not really a sim. But then the other side of it is, it's not really a game either, is it? It's a little bit more than that. Why have I said this? Well, it's because each of the, let's call them sims, each of the sim platforms all do things a little bit differently. Some better than others in different ways. Some have got pluses, some have got minuses. They're all like that. And if you try to compare them like for like, then you notice the differences. And that's what I'm planning on doing now. Now, I'm going to try to compare Assetto Corsa Competizione, Automobilista 2, and to a certain extent Le Mans Ultimate. They're the four main sims that I'm using and that most of you are using as well. I'm not going to iRacing. That's entirely different in my view. And interestingly, someone, Jimmy Broadbent, has already posted a video about where there are differences in certain sims, iRacing included. And this prompted me to sort of do the same thing, and pretty much from that comment on YouTube. My view is, if it's a sim, they should all do the same thing, no? Because otherwise they're not a sim. They can't be, because if they're different, one is going to be wrong somewhere, isn't it? Maybe one is right, who knows? So let's have a look at the comparisons. I'm doing it all in the Ferrari 488 GT3. The reason for that is I've actually driven the 488 race car in real life, so I know what to expect with it, albeit we run it in quite a safe mode, not with any aggressive setups because we're instructing in it. The only one I couldn't do that was Le Mans Ultimate, because it's limited on the GT3 cars at the moment, and I couldn't use the GT3 cars in that to then compare on the other sims, because they don't all have the same cars either. So for instance, the M4 is not on Automobilista 2 as far as I'm aware, although it is on Assetto Corsa and Corsa Competizione. So there was going to be a shortfall somewhere. So because Assetto Corsa Assetto Corsa Competizione and Automobilista 2 are all on low fuel motorsport, which is the platform I race on. That's the main ones I've concentrated on, but I've also had a look at LMU as well. So let's get into it. We're going to use the same track. We're going to use Spa. Setups to an extent are pretty much the same. The only thing that I think may be different is how the feedback is set up on each of my platforms. However, I've set up my force feedback on the basis of experts, if you like, who are on YouTube, who have spent a lot of time in tuning force feedback to get the best out of that wheel or whichever wheel they've got and that platform. So I'm confident everything is as close as I could get it. It's not going to be ideal, but my thoughts and feelings as I go through it will give you an idea. Now, one of you out there might just say, oh, you're being stupid, it's your force feedback that's causing the problem. It could be, but this gives you an idea of what it's like for, let's face it, most people are just average sim racers, okay? I consider myself to be maybe a little bit above average, not a lot, because most of the guys on LFM are average drivers. There's a few aliens, but you'll see the differences when you do your quali, when there's one guy who's 2 seconds ahead of everyone else and everyone else is like pretty close. I'm not a full-time YouTuber and racer, as you know. I probably do maybe 10 to 12 hours a week, if I'm lucky. Sometimes it's 1. But that gives you a bit of an idea. Anyway, enough of this waffle. Let's get straight into it. Right, so we're going to try and compare like for like as much as we can. We're going to go out on Assetto Corsa Competizione and Automobilista 2. We're going to run the 488 GT3. Now, the reason we're running that, I have actually driven a real one, so I know how they work, albeit it's a challenge car. But I've got half an idea of how that handles. And we're going to see what we can do around Spa and how different these platforms feel. I know this has probably been done before, but I want to prove something to you. I've thrown a setup in from the setup exchange. I don't know if it's any good. In fact, actually, this one's got a time on it. Let's do this one. 2:38.066, 54.27. Right, let's see what this does. Biggest problem is trying to keep the tyres warm, because the Kemmel straight tends to Kemmel straight does tend to cool those tyres down quite a lot. So this setup, it says, is good for a 228. I think I can do a 228 around here. Just be careful through here with cold tyres after the Kemmel straight there. Now my immediate thought, oh, feels a bit dead at the front. And it does feel very dead. Now it could just be its cold tyres. But let's see. Yeah, it's got a lot of understeer. Trying to get used to the gearing a little bit as well. Okay, so here goes for one flying lap. Let's try not to bin it, because I'd have to be here all day doing this, won't I? Okay, up turn 1 first of all. Now, we're ignoring the fact that the graphics are going to look entirely different on all of these. We're just trying to get a feeling for what the sim actually feels like. So 5th gear, just a little confidence lift, that feels a bit better. So the delta's entirely wrong at the moment. It should come together soon. Okay, just try and keep the front through here. Go after that Kemmel straight. We've got a lot of understeer. And through there. So the guy who put this setup up said it's a 228.6. But this will give us a baseline. Too late into that, Ian. Yeah, I know why he's got a 228.6. It's because he's dialed in a lot of understeer into this. So you got to wait. Now, I'm not a spar specialist or a GT3 specialist. But I'm going to try and drive each of these similar so I can try and work out which is the better sim. So 224, 388. Let's remember that, shall we? Right, here we are. Okay, here we are at Spot. So completely different POV. Ignore that. And I know it sounds strange, but I get used to that. Ignore it. I've thrown a setup at it. I've got the same traction control and ABS settings that I had with Assetto Corsa. Assetto Corsa Competizione. First thing is, it looks very different. The look of it's great, to be fair. I've always liked that. Let's go and see how it feels, first of all. Because Assetto Corsa, the feedback through the wheel wasn't brilliant. Now, immediately through this, the sound different. Every single little bump I can feel through the wheel. Now, some of that could be my settings. But they're pretty similar. The noise is just incredible. So I'm trying to use the same gears in the same places. And brake as well. Now, I reckon I can go 4 through there. I've just got so much more feel through the steering wheel. And the brakes. Yeah, that's probably still second. I'd be careful there next lap round, won't I? Right. A little bit of a lift through there as well. Okay. Okay, so we've done a couple of installation laps. Let's see if we can get this round in a... Oh, it feels really slidey through there. In a 224.4. That's the target. And it's not about being the fastest, it's about trying to make it consistent. Now, what I have noticed is the front end and the steering in general is a lot more communicative with Assetto Corsa Competizione. And I can feel what the front end is doing now, and the back as well. I can feel when it's sliding, which I couldn't with Assetto Corsa. Oh, come wide there. It's a lot more immersive. It looks better, it feels better. I can feel every single little bump. The noise is a different animal. But it does more of what I expect a race car to do. My hands are already a bit sore, which, to be fair, in a real one would do that. Interestingly, the gearing's a bit different on this. That not quite into sixth before that that left-hander. This is the tricky bit. Trying to get through this chicane, I'm not quick through there at all. Okay, so that's the 226. I've had to try a lot harder with this than I did with Assetto Corsa. And it's a lot less forgiving if you lose time. Try and do this flat, shall we? Not doing that flat. It will never do that flat, not with that setup. Okay, last but not least, we are going to Automobilista 2. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Now, for some reason it's saying traction control 6 and ABS 3 on my dash. It's not. I've got it set the same as the others. And I've just been out there and it's really weird handling. So we're going to go out and just do an installation lap like we did with the others. And see what this feels like. Immediately the noise, different to the other two sims. And not in a bad way. Reminds me a bit more of what it's like when I've got a helmet on with comms and a passenger. Not quite getting the sixth gear down the back straight here at Kemmel Straight. Okay, need to be careful locking up there. It'll brake a little bit earlier, I think. Okay, I can feel what the front and the back are doing in a different way to ACC. I'm feeling a little bit more connected to it. Feels a little bit more natural. Remember 224.3. Maybe be really careful on the brakes so it doesn't lock up actually. but the front and the back seem to do what I want them to do. And I don't think that's set up, because they're almost identical, or as best as I can get them. Now, track limits on AMS2 are a little bit more strict than they are on ACC and Assetto Corsa. So let's see what we can do with a lap. A bit early on the brakes there, but that's fine. Potential 225.1. Braked a bit earlier there because I just wanted to get a good run through here. Try not to get too much over steering wheel spin. Get the front in here so I can get a good run out. Missed that apex by a mile. Just feels does feel more natural. This is like the best of no, this is like the best of ACC and Assetto Corsa together. With a great graphics package. Let's see if I can not wreck this. $223.895. Interesting. Oh. Very interesting. 223.880. Okay, so this is where I can't do the full comparison. This is Le Mans Ultimate. Now, I've done a race with Le Mans Ultimate. I really, really liked it. I love the way it feels. I love the way it handles. So what we're going to do, same track, different car. It's a 296 GT3, which is the new model. They are very different, but I will still get a feel for what the car is like. So imagine I have gone from a 488 GT3. How much quicker would I be in a 296 GT3? Would I be quicker at all? Not driven this on here, literally not driven it. So I don't even know if I've got set up on here. Okay, so the 296 is very different. LMU looks great, I have to say. I really, really like LMU. I love the way it feels. Sound interesting. I've got a speed limiter. Okay, this feels like it could be snappy straight away. I don't know. Do you know what? It's things like this. Just the textures look great. Okay, this is going to be very slidey. Okay, speed limiter's off. I'm not going to do it. There's no heroics here. I just want to see what this car does and how it feels. It's off now. Okay, that looks good through there. Curbs feel great. I went the wrong way. See what it's like next time round. Okay, top speed down to Kemmel Straight. We're getting 260 previously. We're a little bit slower. Oh. POV of the track looks slightly different. Saw a little bit blind. Okay, front feels a bit better. But does it? Actually, Right, let's see if we can do a flying lap round here. 9:2:28.7. Okay, so first, we're already 0.3 up, 0.4 up. We've done an installation lap for 2:27. Feedback is pretty good. It's a bit flat through there, but if you look at the delta on my steering wheel, we're already nearly a second up. Not quite as quick down there as the GT3s on the previous games. Got 260 on Assetto Corsa, remember. Just trying to keep the back nice and tidy. Just let the front come in a little bit, weight on the power. Concentrating quite hard here. It's giving me a bit more confidence on the power. And overall feels pretty good. I like it. Will it go flat? Oh, I did partly lift through there. I could have braked way later there as well. Like, let's be careful, get on the power out of here. Okay, what time's that giving us? 226.2. Okay, so what did I find out? Everyone's got their own opinions on which sim they think is the best. I'm going to keep calling them sims, even though, as it's now plainly clear, I don't think they are. That's the controversial bit. And that's going to upset a lot of people, because everyone's going to say, no, this is very realistic. No, I do all my training here, blah, 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 blah. I'm telling you now, unless you've got a lot of money in kit and you're spending a lot of time in fine-tuning it, it's not going to be a sim. And most of you out there, you're at school or college or work, you haven't got time to spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day on getting everything right. You want to be able to get in, Go and race, have a bit of fun, hopefully be competitive. That's it. You want it to be relatively simple. Yes, when you start getting more into it, you go on the setups of the car and there's going to be some changes. All of that is time invested, okay? And that's entirely up to you. You want to keep investing time in it, you keep investing time in it. Not all of us have that time. So, Assetto Corsa, what do I think of it? Love it. I've loved Assetto Corsa since I first drove it on an Xbox. I think the physics are really good. The feedback is okay, but putting it against these other three, it's actually quite a lot weaker. Now that could be that I haven't got it tuned up to where I need it to be. I am going to play with that in time, but those settings that I've got are from another YouTube video that I watched, compared it with a couple of others, and they're all pretty similar. So I would expect it to be on a comparison with the other three. It's not, okay? However, time-wise, the time wasn't bad. It was actually the second fastest time. So if we're comparing Assetto Corsa, Corsa Competizione and AMS2, it's smack in the middle. Is that because it's realistic, or is that because to a certain extent it's easier to drive? Make of that what you will. Moving on to Assetto Corsa Competizione. ACC, as we'll call it, because it's quicker. The feedback's great, the force feedback, as far as I'm concerned. The feeling over the bumps is great. Actually, to an extent, a little bit too much. But again, you can tune that out. It's more difficult to drive. It's a little bit snappier. That could be down to setup, but I tried to put the setups as close to each other as I could. It was more difficult for me to be consistent. It was more difficult for me to feel what was going on certain corners. It wasn't giving me the warning of it letting go early enough. I was getting it, but it wasn't as abrupt, if you see what I mean. It wasn't as where you get the feeling through the wheel and it's the reaction to be able to do something immediately. That feeling possibly wasn't strong enough. That could be force feedback. Or is it intrinsically the sim? AMS2. Automobilista 2 has recently come online with low fuel motorsport, as we all know, and has been very, very popular. Going into the same car, putting in what I could see was a similar setup, immediately, driving wise, it felt amazing. I could feel what the front and the back of the car were doing very, very easily, and that to me is more of a sim feeling than some of the others. How do they all compare against the real car? Yeah, sort of. There's bits that are there, there's bits that aren't. You're never going to get that full feeling of a car unless you go for a full motion rig, or as I say, you spend a lot of money on the actual kit. But I can see the similarities and I was immediately comfortable in it. So for me at the moment, AMS2 seems to be the one that I will probably concentrate more on, and it seems to be that you are as well. I'm not saying it's my favourite because of that. I love the versatility of Assetto Corsa with all of the mods, although you can do that on AMS2, just not to the same extent. I love the immersion of Assetto Corsa Competizione, and I love the overall feeling of AMS2. Maybe they'll put these all together and they might call it Assetto Corsa Evo, who knows. Then moving on to Le Mans Ultimate. Now, I've not played on this a lot. I've done a couple of races. It was quite good fun. The competitive element online is okay. It's not bad. You can jump straight into a race quite easily. It's quite user-friendly. Feeling-wise, there's certain things where I get noise, like through the curbs, but I don't get the same sort of feeling through the wheel. So that's a bit odd. Braking. Braking's much better on LMU compared to the other sims. You can go hard on the brakes without fear of locking up, but you do have to squeeze that pedal back, which actually promotes trail braking into the corners. It actually makes it a little bit easier because you can feel what it's doing a little bit easier. That I liked about Le Mans Ultimate. Now, I was in a different car. The one thing that felt weird was the actual steering itself. And this is going to sound like a really strange thing to say. It was like driving with a car that's got electric power steering. It didn't have the same feeling of resistance through the steering as some of the other sims do, and it's very difficult for me to describe it. If you drive them back to back, you'll see what I mean. And the reason I did it is because I don't think a lot of people do drive these back to back. They'll go and do a day's racing in one particular platform, and then the next day they might do a day's racing in a different platform. So you don't always go back to back to back in the same car. Give it a try. Your thoughts might be entirely different to mine, but the one thing you will notice is all 4 of those sims feel different. If it's a sim, they should all feel the same, and they don't. So they could be all wrong. It could be one of them right and 3 of them's wrong. Who knows? But they're not all the same. So there we go. That's my bit of controversy for 2025. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the comment button, and please subscribe to the channel. The subscribers are getting more and more, and I want to see more and more of you on my channel. Thanks very much for joining me. I'll see you on track in 2025.